Rooms. So just giving you guys a heads up. But as you see, we have some kind of welcome instructions here to get people acclimated with the Zoom capability going forward. Feel free to make sure that you understand where your mute and unmute button is in the lower left-hand corner, and feel free also to drop a chat just to say kind of where you're from, any inspirational messages, and so that way those that are joining can view the chat and be inspired. But thank you, Joel, for joining us today, as well as LaTonya and Howard, as we are very excited to start our first Incubating Leadership conversation. So the Leadership Forum has a long history, as some of you may have heard, we're on our 102nd year, and we're excited to continue our work in new ways as we've all had to adjust over the last few months. We see these meetings as an opportunity to slow down and refresh and refine yourself in a leadership community. We like this to be a safe space where professionals can come as they are and engage and come together with peers to solve problems. These series are a build-up to our annual summit, which will take place in July, which will also be virtual, but it'll be free, so it'll be great. Takes place July 8th and 9th, so we hope to see you all there. And I will begin to introduce our provocateurs for today. We have Howard Kraft, who's been a healthcare leader with over 25 years of experience in leading and consulting on healthcare strategy, design, and implementation. As Howard mentioned earlier, he's been a member of the Leadership Forum since the late 90s, 96 to be exact, and he currently serves as our co-chairperson for Board of Directors. We also have LaTonya Wilkins, who's a global culture leader, credentialed coach, and speaker, and LaTonya likes to help people, organizations, and entrepreneurs thrive. She's she's worked with Fortune 500 companies, higher education entities, and technology and consulting firms and executive leadership teams, having built leadership development programs from the ground up. Last but not least, we also have Joel Wright, who's a social entrepreneur, innovator, and facilitator of leadership and organizational development focused on the question, what would the world look like if all young people had access to leadership development? Joel spent the last 12 years working with the Center of Creative Leadership and innovating ways to democratize leadership development. So thank you all. I'm happy to have you all join us, and thank you for leading us today. And I will pass it back over to Joel to start us off.
Hey, great. We're gonna say hello here to everyone. So welcome. Some people have just been joining. I know there's a number of other people that are likely to join, and there's about 150 people registered at this point for the Leadership Summit this year. So we're excited, and we'll also be recording this as well. So just welcome, and we're right at about 12 o'clock. So Howard and LaTonya, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourselves? That'll be probably a second time for some people that might have missed it a minute ago, but go ahead and at least say hello to everyone.
Hi, everybody. I'm LaTonya Wilkins. Matthew introduced me very well, so I do a lot of different things. I'm a coach. I'm a culture and diversity inclusion strategist, and I'm also, I care a lot about equity. So I'm here today to start the conversations. I'm really excited.
Excellent. Howard.
Howard Kraft. I am very proud to be co-chair of the Leadership Forum community along with LaTonya and working with the officers of the community. Been a member of the community for about 25 years now, and it has always been a place for rejuvenation for me and really to learn new things about leadership, develop new relationships. I've been in the healthcare industry for over 25 years in a number of different roles. I work with organizations of all different sizes and with a strong focus on change management and transforming healthcare to be ever more effective. And the Leadership Forum community has enabled me to do that, I think, just a bit better. So I am delighted to be here today.
Great.
Joel?
Yeah, and hey everyone again, welcome. Thrilled to be here. As you heard earlier, Matthew summed up a driving question of a lot of my work has been around you know, what would the world look like if all young people or all people everywhere had access to leadership development? So a good friend and colleague that's on the line out there is Lyndon Rago. He and I were working together at the Center for Creative Leadership to advance some of that around democratizing leadership. And the Leadership Forum has had a long history with CCL as well. And so a lot of ideas have kind of bounced back and forth. So, hey, thrilled everyone is here. A question that I'll pose before we really get going is, you know, sometimes when we're on Zoom calls or meetings, it's often hard to be present, or even when you're going into a face-to-face facilitated session. And a question I like to ask is, what do you need to do to fully be present and get out of it what you need? And people can just go ahead and add that into a chat. You know, what's something you're going to do that will help you be fully present? I'm going to type mine in here. Mine was, I'm turning my phone over. Somebody's talking about note-taking, just listen. Kathy, I love the relax, take a deep breath. You know, just to build on that one, Kathy, you know, the Leadership Forum has always been in a retreat type setting. And so we really do want these incubating leadership conversations to be an opportunity to unplug a little bit, to relax and really, you know, be in partnership with other people in the community. So, you know, what do you need to do to really to show up and engage and let this be a rejuvenating experience as opposed to one more thing to do? So with that, we're going to click into the agenda here. LaTonya, why don't you talk about some of the components of the agenda that we'll go through today?
Yeah, so today we're going to talk all about incubating leadership. And this is the theme of the summit this year. So we hope you all join us. We're going to start off with a welcome and our logistics. And then this is going to be extremely interactive. We're going to break into groups, talk a little bit about incubating leadership, what it means to you, how the Leadership Forum could play a role in that. And then we're going to have a series of discussions and talk to you a little bit about what to expect in the next several weeks during the summit. So this will be very interactive. Me, Joel, and Howard will be handing off and doing this as a group. So we're looking forward to it.
Great, thanks, LaTonya. Howard, anything to add as we're moving into this?
Nothing to add, just the sense of really engaging together. That is so much of what the Leadership Forum community is all about. It's about relationship building and sharing of ideas and learning from each other. So we look forward to this first session on incubating leadership.
Yeah, and with that, Howard, you know, a statement that always comes to my mind whenever I start with facilitation, and it's true today as is any day, is, you know, the teacher and the student create the learning here. So we have leaders of all levels on here. We all can learn a great deal from and with each other. So let's keep that in mind as we go through here. So just to acknowledge, we are starting something here today, and we are going to be moving towards the summit on July 8th and 9th. And this image here is something that I actually found in a school. And it was a way that a teacher helped students acknowledge the learning journey, the leadership journey of launching into doing anything alone, together, whatever it might be. And at the beginning, as you can say, this is the best idea ever, right? You know, so sometimes when we launch into a journey of or doing something together, it is like, wow, this is going to be great, right? And then we recognize that as we get going, things become a little bit tougher, even to the point where we might get down into the black swamp of despair, and we're just like, this is awful. I want to quit. I don't want to keep going. And so how do we learn to support each other like this bridge that comes across the middle, where we think about our foundational leadership beliefs, and we think about our friends or the community that can support us, and humor. Howard, who said he doesn't do light and funny today, broke in with a joke to start the conversation. Well done, Howard. And how do we have grit? And even as Kathy said earlier, how do we take some deep breaths upon this journey? And so what I do want to connect this to is we're in our 102nd, but we've just launched a new strategy around incubating leadership. And that's what we're going to get into. But I really believe that we're in an era that we need to be thinking about layers and broader ways of inclusion and equity to help more and more people learn and grow as a leader, because it's an interdependent world. And the final thing I'll say is that we launched this new strategy. We are wanting to pivot from being just a convening where we connect once a year, have good dialogue, and people serendipitously start to go off and do good work and stay connected. We want to create more of an ongoing year-round community that creates impact and even works on some projects and solutions together that we can contribute back out into the world. So we do want you on this journey to be thinking about where we're going and ideas that you might have that you'd like to partner with others in this community. Spoke a little long there, but I'll turn it back to LaTonya here to really kick off our first engagement.
Great. So before we go into incubating leadership, can everybody give me their best power or swagger pose? Because this is a big journey that we're entering. So just take up a lot of space and just kind of make yourself feel strong today, that you're on this journey with us, you're taking it with us. And it's good to take that energy into incubating leadership. So that's where we're going, and we're going to start getting into our groups. David, I love your comment about reminding yourself why you're here, constantly reminding yourself why you're here. And that's something that I'll be doing as well. I love that comment. So we're going to talk a little bit about what incubating leadership means to us. And so I'm going to get you started with these conversations. And if you look at the slide, you see a lot of people here in this picture that probably aren't stereotypical leaders, right? And in my own personal story about what incubating leadership means to me, I've been in a lot of organizations where leadership is a position, right? But it's not a position, right? And one of the reasons why I joined the Leadership Forum is to provide equity and attain equity in who gets leadership development and who can be considered a leader, and basically opening the door for those people to make impact. Typically it's been, you have to be a manager to be a leader, and we're not going to provide you with any type of training unless you are a manager, and so on. So I want you to think, now that I've talked a little bit about what incubating leadership means to me, we're going to break into groups, and I want you to talk with your group about what incubating leadership means to you. Here's 3 questions that you could ask yourselves: what it means, why is it relevant now? For me, in my story, the reason why it's relevant now is we need equity now more than ever. We are in a situation and in a crisis where we need as many leaders as possible to carry us out of this. We need different ideas at the table. And the third thing I want you to talk about is, what would an era of incubating leadership look like? So based on what your definition is, what would an era of this look like? So you're going to have 10 minutes. I'll hand it over to you, Matt, and you can get us all divided up.
Thank you. I'll be posting the questions in the chat here as well, so that way you can reference them. Everyone can reference them, but I will create breakout rooms now.
When we have a little bit of a pause here, you can be, doodling on the side or just kind of thinking to yourself, what do these questions mean to you? A helpful pause is sometimes really beneficial.
So, and that's as far as we got. So anyone else want to share? Maybe we can take one more live comment, and then we can also share in the chat. Anyone want to share live? You can take yourself off mute. Okay.
Hi, it's Robert Schott. I'll offer one, which
Sure.
I led with in our group, and I feel very attached to this theme for myself. And it's about how do you incubate your own personal leadership much more consciously, where you may be a leader in your own right by the work you do and the people that follow and join in what you're doing, but perhaps your own leadership profile could grow by actively thinking about the traits that are feeding your leadership and developing those.
Great. So thinking about your own personal leadership and traits. That's a good one. In the chat, we've got a few more. I'm going to read some of these. So partnerships. We talked a lot about partnerships and relationships, so we'll get into those a little bit more. Charlie, leaving behind the elite. Inga, helping people find their own unique voice. And in these times, we need nurturing leaders who give people opportunities, so providing opportunities. And this was like trying to get back to the presentation after breakout table discussions in Morse Hall. Yeah, it's probably a little bit more abrupt, right, Jill?
Yeah.
Yeah, blame it on Matt. So he was the one that took us out abruptly. Now more than ever, we need to build and nurture stronger leaders and leadership skills. So there's tons of comments in here. And what I'm going to do is we'll download the chat. Any in here, Joel, that you'd like to touch on before we move on to our model?
You know, just saw one that was just around be conscious and active in developing leadership in ourselves and in others, and how that's just kind of mutually beneficial. I think we've talked about that, but that was just one that struck. You know, in my breakout group, there was somebody who was sharing how their a family member just gave birth, and the baby arrived 8 weeks early and was physically in an incubator then. And so it turned into a real rich conversation around how, you know, boy, not only did this child when it first arrived in the world needed support, but we actually all need it along our journey because we're not perfect, right? You know, we're a work in progress. And I think that was really meaningful in our group. So, well, with that, let me pivot it on to Howard here. Keep the dialogue and banter going. We're trying to manage a little bit time while also really allowing for that rich dialogue so that we can create community and go deeper. So Howard, talk a little bit about our incubating leadership strategy here.
Thanks, Joel, and thanks, LaTonya, for leading the previous session. As we step back and we think about incubating leadership, it is really about how do we maximize results and impact. And we as a community, you know, for those who don't know, we've been in existence since 1918. We had a milestone year last year. We became a 501(c)(3) organization, and we've developed the infrastructure to focus on incubating leadership on an ongoing basis. And it's a tremendously exciting time for us as an organization, and an organization without walls, you know, and that's, you know, just all of the people on the phone today is representative of our community. Our community's focus is on 3 key areas that lead to optimal results and impact: personal leadership, leadership development network, and then creating solutions. In terms of personal leadership, it's the reality and what we've talked about so far. We're all leaders, no matter what our position, no matter where we live, no matter our backgrounds and so forth. We all have the potential to improve as leaders. So there's this very strong focus on the personal journey of leadership. And again, we'll emphasize that phrase, journey, a long time. You know, one person in our group said she was 24 and she didn't think she had a lot to add. And I personally have learned more from 24-year-olds and those younger, and the insights that people of all generations have. So
Absolutely.
One of the things that I reflect on our community, it's always been a multi-generational community, let alone multicultural and, multi kind of functional, people coming from all different walks of life. The second thing, and it builds upon that idea, is our network. A strong focus of our incubating leadership is on developing an expanded network of resources of people that we trust, that we can learn from, share ideas with. In some cases, it's just plain moral support as we go through transitions in our own careers, our journeys, our life journeys, and so forth. So there's a very strong element of developing an expanded network. And for those who are new to the Leadership Forum community, that's probably one of the biggest takeaways that we would love to leave with you today, is this idea that you will have an expanded network that will help you on your leadership journey. Last but not least, we understand that each of us, whether or not we work in communities or in organizations, we're retired, we're just getting started, we're in school, wherever we might be, we need tools and resources to help us further leadership and achieve the best results and impact. So another area of focus for the Leadership Forum community is to create solutions and do that in a way, and Joel was introduced as kind of an entrepreneur, and in fact he is, and others on this phone are also entrepreneurs, and we can all be entrepreneurial in thinking about what solutions are needed to further leadership and further incubating leadership. So those are the three areas: personal leadership, leadership development network, and create solutions, all with a focus on how do we make meaningful change, achieve meaningful impact. Are there any questions about kind of the Leadership Forum focus before we jump into the first area of personal leadership?
And if you have questions, you can insert it in the chat, or you can take yourself off mute. We'll just field a question or two.
Can I ask a question about historical, I guess, dialogue and content? I'm speaking from my own perspective, as well as this perspective of probably anyone that's been involved with the forum for over 20 years. Is there any thought been given to, or is there any continuing initiative to capture lessons learned from those that have been around the forum for a long time? And the reason I ask that is I have this great network of people that have been around the forum for a long time now, and I say this with all due respect, a lot of those people are no longer with us, but many of them are. And many of those that are no longer with us, their children are with us. And in some cases, their grandchildren are with us. And I would like to not see the legacy of things from the past go away. But at the same time, I know how much young people have to offer today to fix leadership in this world. So has there been any thought given to balance the old with the new in terms of lessons learned and lessons to be learned?
Yeah,
Well,
Howard,
Charlie,
go ahead, Howard.
Yeah, oh, go ahead. Well, Charlie, I'll just give one quick note and then turn it to Joel. One is that is absolutely critically important to our mission and who we want to be as a community. We want to leverage the learnings of the past. We want new insights, and we want a forum and to share those ideas. So we'll continue to do that. And I also believe that we're trying to, not just have it as a conversation, but to document it, so to speak, in our various communications and so forth, so that we don't lose that. And again, we look forward to the community helping us figure some of these things out. Joel, just to add to that.
Yeah, I was just going to say, Charlie, one thing we've benefited from by being connected to Silver Bay, the YMCA, where we traditionally house this is they have archives up
Right.
there. And so
Oh, it's
there's a
beautiful.
lot.
That's
So we actually have archives. I've been up in there, and as we built this strategy, we really tried to connect it to the roots. So personal leadership and the idea of everyone learning and growing is a component of the past and will be a part of our future. And that network has always been something that's been critical. Many of us have stayed connected and have gotten jobs or done work and projects together. And so we're now leaning into this second century of impact, and how do we do more of that work that used to be serendipitous or happen randomly outside of the annual summit, and how do we put more intention on creating solutions and such. So that's where we're hoping to go, and we are continuing to reach out to people that aren't able to be here today, as well as who have been a part of our history, and really getting some good support. But people come and go, and people will probably come back in a few years too. But I'm going to keep us moving, Charlie. Thanks for the comment. If you have anything else out there, please put it in chat, reach out to us individually. But Charlie, way to model just the ability to ask a question out here. That's really helpful.
And I see a question from Robert, and we're going to, about describing how organizations can use the forum for testing and incubating. We'll get to that in the third section when we talk about creating solutions. So we'll come back to that, Robert. I would like to shift to, we'll do a bit of a breakout here, but think about personal. The question that we'll ask each of you to think about is, what was an experience that helped you along your journey, or perhaps was instrumental to transforming the way you thought about and the way you executed being a leader? One of the things that comes to mind for me is, in the early part of my career, I always kind of prided myself on being the one who could figure out the answer by myself and do it myself. And at one point in my career, we were faced with tremendous financial challenges within the organization, shifting priorities, possibly the outsourcing or the elimination of the team that I was responsible for. And a critically important coach in my life, Kathy Canifer, helped me to understand that now was the time to bring people, into the decision making and into the problem solving together to figure out what approach would be best for our department. So instead of coming, holing away in an office trying to figure it out myself, I included all the team members that I had who had leadership responsibilities within my group, and we problem solved our future together. It was one of the most inspirational and transformational experiences of my life. It changed the way I thought about leadership in many ways. So that was really important to me. And it built better ties, stronger ties with all of them. And when we finally made our decisions, everybody was fully bought into them, even when they, in some cases, it affected their job situation. So think about that. We're going to break out into small groups again, into breakout sessions, and think about the experience that helped transform you on your journey.
Yes, and I'm posting the question in the chat. Oh, sorry, muted myself.
Posting all that.
Yeah, posting the question in the chat there for everyone to see, and we are moving to breakout rooms. And breakout rooms are 10 minutes, and you will see a 60-second countdown. So look out for that, so that way it's not abrupt for anyone. Hey, Amy, Kathy, Mark, and Poe. I will move you all to breakout rooms here so there you go. Amy, you're on your way. Kathy and Mark, on your way. And Poe, on your way. Lyndon, hey, I will assign you to a breakout room.
Yeah, I was in one, Matt. I got kicked out. My system crashed, so you can.
Okay,
go back.
putting you back right in one. Gotcha. Thank you. Chris, are you here?
Yeah, hey Matthew, I had to
Hey.
step away from it, and so now I'm just rejoining.
No worries. Did you remember what breakout room you were in, or does it not matter for you?
I was with well, how long have we been back in breakout rooms?
Just started here, so maybe all of a minute.
Great. The first breakout room I was in was with Howard Kraft, I know, and a guy named someone who worked for like an education group called Up for something.
Yeah.
That's all I really remember.
Okay. Well, some people got rearranged a little bit, so I'm just gonna put you in a breakout room that has the least amount of people here. And,
That's great.
Cool. Marianne, are you in this room with me here? And Michelle? Hey, Michelle, and we have a phone number. Mary, I think you're on mute if I can't hear you.
Yeah.
Hey.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
There you go. Hi.
Cool. Hey. Let me see. You're supposed to be in breakout room 2 here, so I will. Not sure what's going on, but I will move you to another breakout room here shortly. I'm looking for a good space. Moving you to breakout room 9. So we'll see who you get. No problem.
Take us to the next slide and keep going. One more. So I'm gonna end my piece here by talking about networks, and I'm gonna do this a little bit more quickly than anticipated. But one quick story I'll share with you is that my rule of thumb is as networks are 80% of who we are, like the 80-20 rule. Networks are 80%, 20% is our skills and our profession. So 80% is really what makes you successful, right? And those are the people in your network. I also call that a tribe. So these are people that are around you, that may be your peers, that may be your mentors, that may be your champions, everybody, people that you call up when you're having a bad day. All these people are part of your tribe or your network. So I want everybody to share in the chat, how has your network shaped your journey? So reflecting on that 80-20 rule, right? Networks are 80% of what occurs, and 80% of your success can be attributed to your network. How have they shaped your journey as you're coming out of reflecting on your personal journey? So if you could put that in the chat, and if you could move to the next slide as we're collecting those, Matthew. So the reason why we're asking this is that the LFC, we're all about networking, and this leadership development network is what makes us better. When we were in the last breakout, I was in with other provocateurs, Joel and Howard, and we were talking about how the breakout rooms are really making this session. It's not us lecturing you, it's about you networking, you cultivating, incubating leadership with other people in your groups. So I'm going to go to a couple comments, and then I'm going to hand it over to Joel to close out. But growing in transparency, that's big, right? Being able to understand who you are and other people being transparent with what they think you are. Also being very supportive. Modeling, that's big. Thank you, Joel, for that one. Tribe, continue to learn and grow and try things that I may not have had the confidence. Yeah, so that trial and error. And that trial and error, I'll stop with that one and wrap it up with this. So you are all of you are in this tribe, and we're all in this tribe together. This is our first time doing this online. So today is all about trial and error, right? Everything wasn't perfect, and we're still moving on it. And so you being our tribe is empowering us to do that and empowering us to show up for you in incubating leadership. So that's all I have. I'm going to hand it over to Joel, and he's going to close us out.
Yeah, so great. I'm just going to talk real briefly and making sure I'm not on mute. Great. So we talked about some of the strategy of the Leadership Forum, you know, not only being about meaning making and connecting and supporting us on our journey, but how do we start to think about incubating leadership solutions? So we always have a community of provocateurs that comes together, and we all have a wealth of experience, and we have a lens into the environment, the community, the workforce that we're a part of. And there's all sorts of things that can be improved. And so as we go through this series of incubating leadership conversations, being exposed to different pockets of reality that people are experiencing or stories that they might share, how do we start to source from some different ideas of projects or solutions that we could come together? And at the forum, we will start to, you know, we will go through a process of sourcing some of those ideas and seeing which ideas really stick, that we might want to we might want to, you know, form a small group of people to work on those beyond the forum. And that doesn't mean that everyone is going to be a part of a project team, but we want to provide that opportunity, and then we want to support it. So what leadership solutions contributed to your leadership journey? You know, you can put some of that in the chat right now. You know, what tools and products are needed now? Be able to put them in there. So 360-degree surveys, great. That might not be something we create here, or maybe there's a new version, but I love that one, Brian. Excellent. So keep those ideas going, and think of that image over there on the right as a little bit of the journey, where, boy, we really step into times when we don't really know what's going on. So a bit more about this creating leadership solutions is the community has always had some questions that have popped up at the top end of this funnel. And thank you, Lyndon, for introducing me to this innovation funnel years ago. But the idea is that when you're exploring something in the beginning, there's a lot of meaning making, and you might land on a question that really helps you focus and then starts to put things together into that middle section of the funnel where there's some degree of organization of ideas that come together. And then at the end, there might be a product or a solution. And so the Leadership Forum is focusing in on 3 specific sectors that we think incubating leadership solutions could benefit from. And so we've populated some different examples in education, corporate, and the broader societal structure, and recognize everything contributes into society, but be thinking about what might be good over the next month that we can, next 2 months as we lead into the summit. And then just finally, Howard, why don't you just round out a little bit of the strategy talk here, and I'll bring her home with the final thank yous here.
Sure, thanks, Joel. Very quickly, as we mentioned before, we have 3 key areas of focus for the Leadership Forum: personal leadership, our network, as well as creating solutions. We also break out into 3 areas, 3 domains, and those are corporate, educational, and societal. So those are the 3 sectors that we focus on in our community. And if you flip to the next page, Matthew. Very quickly, just this lays out our schedule between now and early July, the different incubating leadership conversations that we'll have with you, all of you, and hopefully a lot more, building up on momentum. And you can see we've got different provocateurs leading those sessions, and we're really excited about these. They'll be posted on our website and communicated to all of you. So we encourage you to attend. We also encourage you to invite others and share so that we can continue to expand the network that we have. And with that, I'll toss it back to Joel.
Great. And so just to bring things to a close, we recognize that, you know, when we're in a face-to-face summit or conference or such, we have the benefit to really connect and support each other over the couple of the days. And so there's a real community that comes together. And so incubating leadership, we're also going to be incubating some partnerships as we go through this. So a way to help build community is going to be partnering with Parade. So you see a little elephant in the bottom left. Parade is a program component that is being embedded into Slack. And so we are going to use Slack. Some people might not be familiar with Slack as a tool to do project management or build community, but we're going to use that, and Parade will be a programmatic component embedded in there. And we will all be partnered with another person to build some one-on-one relationships to help us strive towards a goal or a way to support each other on a leadership journey. And so the data here that Parade has been from an early pilot that they did. And they basically saw, actually it's not from an earlier pilot, but this is from, some research around setting goals. And lots of people set goals, but they don't always execute them until they start partnering and sharing and build a support network. And so that's what we're going to do through this, is we're going to use this pairing approach to build community and help us all learn and grow and create some better impact out there. You'll be receiving a note after after today's session that will introduce you to it. Tomorrow there will be a lunch conversation for additional tech help as a way and as a place for us to continue our conversations. So with that, I recognize we're right at 1 o'clock. Everyone take a deep breath. We hope that this was rejuvenating experience today. We will stay around if people have additional questions today, but we do just want to say thank you. I want to say thank you to Matthew, the magic man behind the mirror here, putting it all together. Let's give Matthew a little applause here.
Thank you.
And also there are, a whole community of people within the Leadership Forum, Kathy and Kat Leho, that are the chairs for the summit this year, and a number of other people. So thank you everyone for the work that you're doing, the movement that we're growing, and I'll open it up for others to say anything.
Big thank you to, I guess, you, Joel, Howard, and LaTonya. Great work done this evening, and really enjoyed the format and the way things went. And it was a great start to this year's summit. So thank you very much, guys.
Thanks, Kat Leho.
Thanks, Kat Leho.
We'll be around if people